right, hello everyone. Thanks for joining me today. We're gonna talk about getting from beginner stages of oud playing to more intermediate stages of oud playing. And let's start by going through some of the challenges that people go through getting from the beginner stage to the intermediate. Um, I had a oud student a while ago that was taking lessons with me over Skype, and was completely self-taught. He got some of the basics down really nicely. Already had an ear for music and whatnot, and so it was really nice that he could learn so much all by himself. But there were some things that he needed some help on that he needed to figure out. Um, and so he was able to get some pointers, get some of the details that he couldn't figure out on his own by going through some lessons with me, and it was really useful for him to get that. So getting those details really helped him get from beginner stage to intermediate. And so I think from some of the challenges that that you have are how to develop those motor skills, getting those details, the left hand and right hand coordination. And then the next is getting exposed to the right repertoire and experiencing music that enriches your mind and your imagination so that you really kind of experience the music the way it should be. So I think getting a bit of a balance between playing exercises and learning tunes, and then taking tunes and turning those tunes into exercises to really help your playing and your practice be fun is a nice way to get from that beginner stage to more intermediate stage. Another challenge is getting techniques and or how to play ornamentation to get your oud playing from sounding, just from playing very sparse notes to getting to play more techniques that make your oud sound rich, and that hereby enables you to have more fun playing the oud. But how do you really get to getting this knowledge and figuring out what you can start applying as a beginner? Um, that's what I'd like to talk about next. So the first problem is how do I learn ornamentation? So you got to listen to good oud players and good music. Um, a story that I like to tell is like when I was learning traditional Persian music as a child, I didn't really understand, what I was hearing. Um, I really only comprehended that some tunes were more catchier than others. I think that listening to good music rubs off on you. So knowing what oud players to listen to, and listening to them, immersing yourself in that music, will help you subconsciously hear good things that make sense for the oud, for Middle Eastern music, and that stuff will subconsciously get into you. So listening to good players is really important, I think. Like it's really a fortunate stage that we are in right now, the time that we are in with the internet and whatnot, and everything is available at your fingertips. Like back when I was getting into the oud, it was pretty much impossible for me to get a hold of new oud music. But nowadays, I have a Spotify subscription, and I can access pretty much anything that's available in their library. And we also have YouTube, so we can hear of unrecorded oud players who are really talented, who maybe not necessarily have an album, but you can find them on YouTube, and you can discover a whole range of oud players that are really good. Of course, there are some not so good oud players out there too that maybe are not the best examples to be listening to, but you could be listening to them, and so it's good to know what are the good oud masters out there. Best thing to do is to find the good recorded ones, and then always compare the new guys you're hearing on YouTube or whatever, and compare them to the big giants, like Farid Al-Atrash, Simon Shaheen, Said Shrabi, all these, big oud players, some other names like Yurdal Tokcan from the Turkish tradition, and compare and see what you like, and keep listening to more of what you like. That will help you kind of subconsciously learn these things. Um, but when it comes down to it, you need to get into the details, and you need to go step by step, look through at the details of different oud techniques and different ornamentations. Back on Tuesday, or during this week, I did an exercise from the Oud Foundation Program Part 3, the muting technique, muting exercises. I add these everywhere when I play the oud. Um, really useful thing to do. All it is muting the note. So when I have a descending passage, for example, I add this muting to make it sound a bit more exciting rather than playing. It gets redundant, so it's nice to have these muting abilities. And there's so many different ways that you can mute on the oud, which are very specific to the oud and using very specific techniques. So I definitely recommend checking out these kind of and learning these very subtle details about playing the oud. That way you can enrich your own playing. So I can take a very simple melody and I can add those muting techniques to make it sound more alive. And you can mix and match, and sometimes you can play it muted, sometimes you can play it unmuted, and that helps the variety and helps your playing sound rich. um, Oftentimes the oud is such an instrument that uh, it can sound monotonous if you don't apply these different techniques to it. So it is nice to have. There's different ways. One is with muting with one finger above with a note above the note in the scale. So for example, on G, you can use the note above. Let's say I'm playing A flat or A quarter flat. You put your finger above there. So that is different than playing muting all the notes because there's still resonance. You can hear that resonance. You might not be able to pick it up on this mic, but you can pick it up on in live when you hear it live. So there's more resonance when you just mute with one finger. You can hear the overtones rather than muting like this. You can't hear anything after. So then there's another mute where you just kind of lift the finger off. This has a different effect again, and it's not as beautiful as the other mute like this one. You don't get as much as those overtones. Um, and yeah, so there's different ways that you can mute and different techniques that you can use to make it more beautiful. Getting these details down is really important when playing the oud. Let's go to my next point. So question number 2, how do I learn various repertoire? So one of the solutions I recommend is getting out of your bubble. So it's easy to get caught up into, your own little world. Like for me, for example, until 2007, I had never been exposed to good Arabic oud or Turkish oud. I was completely immersed in Persian music until that time. And Persian oud is used in a very specific way. And up until that point, there weren't that many good oud players in Iran either. Um, and I was following the technique and repertoire of my teacher Hossein Behruziniya. And so it's very limited in its scope to Persian music. So what started happening around that time, I started getting exposed to different players, and it wasn't as rich as it is now. Like back then, it was I didn't even know what other oud players were, what I would search. I was a complete outsider. So in some ways, I was a complete foreigner coming to Arabic music and Turkish music. I just had no idea. Um, So it's a bit easier now, like YouTube and social media. You can find all kinds of and Turkish and Persian oud players. But it's also easy to get bogged down in too many options. um, for example, one of the problems that I face right now is like I haven't really listened to one album from start to finish in I don't know how many years. Back in the day, you used to like buy a CD at the store, and you would have you would have digested that CD in its entirety. You paid like $20 for that CD. You would have listened to it 100 times over and over from start to finish. You really would have got that music into you. But when was the last time you really did that? Now that we have YouTube, now that we have Spotify, um, it's been a long time since I've done that. So that's another issue that you can get into nowadays, is that we don't really we don't really cherish it so much the way we used to, because it's a different medium now. And so one thing that I'd recommend doing, I haven't done it myself, like, but there are some CDs out there that are just hard to find recorded. For example, there's one Fez Festival CD, which is called Bismillah, Fez Festival from like the mid 2000s and whatnot. You can't find that recording anywhere online. There's some CDs like that, and it's really nice to get a hold of a CD like that and really listen to it. Really listen to it. Just sit down, have it in the background, or even just sit down and listen to it while you're having some tea. The same way you would if you focus on reading a book or watching a good show. Just focus on the music a lot, and you'll pick up things that you wouldn't have picked up if you're listening in the car or just passively while you're doing something online. You're distracted and whatnot. So listening to different repertoire, getting out of your bubble, getting exposed on YouTube, through Spotify, getting exposed, but also focusing on the music too. Really eat it up. One album which I was able to do this last time I really listened to one album was Yurdal Tokjan's album Saray, or Passion. It's a solo Taksim album, and it really blew me away. That was one of the first times I got exposed to really good, high quality Turkish oud playing. My teacher Hossein Beshuzinia, he had come back from a oud competition or festival. I can't remember. I think it was in Morocco. And anyway, he met Eurodol there, and they exchanged CDs and albums and whatnot. He brought this back, and he gave it to me. He's like, "Check this out, listen to it," and that blew me away. It was completely different from what I had heard up until then. That was maybe about 2000, maybe it was 2007 or 2008. I'm not really sure now, but that was the last time I really listened to an album from start to finish, and it really started getting exposed well. So that's one thing I'd recommend doing. So, question 3: how do you develop the right motor skills? So, my solution is to follow a method. Uh, don't do the thinking. Let someone else do the thinking for you. Spend your time on actually playing the oud and focusing on getting practicing really well. That's what I would do when it comes to that. So there are some oud methods out there, and of course, I'd like to talk about the Oud Foundation Program and how that can help you get your motor skills down right. Um, you know, learning the oud and playing the oud as an advanced oud player still takes a lot of discipline and focus. Like, we've got all these microtones that we can play on the oud, and if you're not careful, even as an advanced player, your muscle memory can trip up. You really got to keep your focus. So if you can focus on practicing the oud, practicing slowly, and focusing on what you're playing rather than spending your time searching for this exercise, for that exercise, thinking about what to play next, following a method can really help you focus and practice the oud well. All right, so next thing I want to talk about, um, what method to choose. So the problem with the oud world right now is there's not a lot of methods in English. There's a few oud books out there, but some are in Turkish. That kind of leaves you at a loss if you want to learn Arabic style oud. There's multiple tunings that you could use. So what oud method do you really follow? That depends on what oud style really inspires you. So if you're into the Turkish school, if you really are inspired by Armenian oud players, Turkish oud style, really dynamic, energetic style, then you may want to learn a Turkish oud method. But if you're looking for something that is kind of middle of the way, then the Oud Foundation Program might be something that you'd want to look at and take a look at, because what I tried to do is use oud tuning that's very standard. So my oud is tuned C, G, D, A, and F, and then C. So there's a few different oud tunings, but this oud tuning is nice because the main basic oud technique all falls on four courses of the oud: C, G, A, and D and A. So everything lands here. All the important technique is here. Turkish ouds, it's the same intervals, just one note higher. So we have D, E, A, E, and then B. The same intervals. They're all fourths, right? So all the technique is based there. The old ancient oud that you can find in history books from the Islamic golden times and whatnot, really there's only four courses tuned in fourths. So that's where the magic really happens. That's what oud is. The last two bass notes are really superfluous, or they're really just extra. They make they add things that you can't really do otherwise. It takes it from a more one note kind of thing to a more solo instrument that can expand the range. You can do a different bass jumping techniques and support your playing with lower bass notes. So the reason why I use this tuning is because Simon Shaheen uses this tuning with the low F and low C. And I think his technique and his oud style is the most well-rounded, and will be able to you'll be able to explore whatever oud tuning you want after learning this oud tuning. I think it's just very versatile. You by having the F string tuned to F in as opposed to G, so this bass string can also be tuned to G, which is in the Persian school of oud we often tune to G. So we have these two strings. We need that open G to ring out for the daska that we're playing, for the types of scales we use, and the type of style that we play. We need that open G. But for Arabic playing, and for most Persian playing, you don't really need that open G. What it does, by opening up the F, you have the F. You can play tunes in the key of F. And it allows you to support that F note. F is a really important note when it comes to joining different maqams together and doing modulations. So having that F bass string really supports your playing. Then you can always finger the G with your middle finger here if you ever need the G. So your G is still available. You know, if you're playing keys, maqams in the key of G, you can still use the G there, but you've got F sharp available too, which you use in like Maqam Hijaz. So you can do all this range, and it's really nice to have. So I like the open F. I think it's a very versatile tuning, well-rounded, versatile tuning. Now, if you ever wanted in the future to try a high F tuning, well, it's pretty much exactly the same. So you start, instead your F string would be at the bottom, so you'd have F, A, D, G, C, and then you'd have an extra high F string. So this tuning is nice because if in the future you want to get a high F tuning oud, it's not that different. You already know the fingerings. You just have this extra high F um, note that you can it's really easy because it's also a fourth above C. So it's not that different finger wise. You can figure out what the notes are very easily. And the rest of the notes are like you already have learned. So this tuning is what I've used for my oud method, which I think is the most versatile, well-rounded. So that's what we use in the Oud Foundation Program, and it's adaptable too. Like once you learn this tuning, other tunings are easier. For example, if you ever want to play with the the low string tuned up to D to play like Makam Bayati on D, for example, if you want to have that, tuning it up to D is really easy, and you have that open string. So I think from a learning advantage, learning a more challenging or more versatile, well-rounded tuning is going to help you in the future. Those other tunings are going to be easier to play. Um, for example, me, I started playing the Persian style where the bass string was tuned to G, you know, and I was actually learning on a barbat, which is only 5 courses. So we only got 5 courses, not 6, with no bass string. And so changing later on, learning the drop F tuning, which I found was very versatile. I wanted to explore Arabic music and whatnot. I found that it was a bit challenging to get used to. So I recommend learning the more challenging things first, then experimenting with other tunings makes it easier. So now I'd like to talk about some other solutions that help you with your motor skills, learning repertoire that the Oud Foundation program can help you with. So, like I said, the challenges are developing the right motor skills, learning how to apply ornamentation, and expanding your knowledge of repertoire. So, the solutions that you can use are following one oud method with good exercises, listening to various oud styles to get exposed to new ornamentation, and listening to a wide variety of artists. Um, so, the Oud Foundation program, of course, it's online based. It's got step by step instructions where you can learn how to play tunes, and while honing your left hand on the fingerboard and your right hand as well. And I really focus on introducing tricks to learn microtones, and there are only a few microtones that you really need to learn to play most Arabic music. So we focus on that, and we get you to learn that very quickly throughout the program. And you don't have to go through any guesswork. You don't have to have any doubt fumbling around for, um, what exercise to learn next, what style should I learn. I try to organize it so that it's very well rounded. And so I want to go through a little bit about what we have in part 3 and part 4, because these focus on going through getting you from beginner to more intermediate playing. So let's go through that. So in part 3, you start to learn trills and tremolo trills on the oud. Give an example of what that's like. So let's say learning stuff like this, and then playing tremolo over that. This really helps your playing, and this is really important to learn. We learn the 10/8 rhythm, Samai Thaqil, where you can learn that typical Samai rhythm that is often found in Ottoman Turkish music and a lot of traditional uh, Egyptian and Syrian music, 10/8 rhythm. And you can learn other maqams like maqam Hijaz Kar, maqam Nahawand. We go through, here are some of the maqams we learn. Ajam on F, Ajam on C, and we learn another daska, Persian daska, which is called Esfahan, and we learn Dashti. Dashti is another beautiful Persian sub mode that you can learn. Also, Turkish tune, we learn Sirto Nakriz, and that's a really killer one. And Nakriz is one of my favorite maqams, which is used in Turkish music and Arabic music. right, let's continue. And we end up also learning some muting exercises. I also brought a tune from the Azari tradition, Persian Turkish hybrid kind of music. This tune is called Ayrılık. This one is a really beautiful one. I'll demonstrate it for you here. All right, so you can hear me, but no video. All right. Well, at least you guys can hear me for now. I'm gonna try to come back in. Let's see if it works. All right, looks like I'm back. Can you hear me? All right, we're back in business. All right, I was gonna demonstrate Ayrılık. Ayrılık is a nice tune. It's a nice slow 6/8, and it's a really pretty one. Um, so I really like this tune. This tune is one that you can learn in the part 3 of Oud Foundation Program. You can also learn Aziz June. Aziz June is a really classic Persian folk tune, which I actually released a video last week demoing part of that. A really strong technique that you can use on the oud with down, down, up pattern. This is really killer, very typical Persian style dance music. So this is a nice tune that I really like that is included in the program as well. And then Zuruni, which is a classic Egyptian one based on Makam Ajam in F. This one's really a pretty tune. tune that you can learn in this program. Also, exercises. I talked about muting exercises last time. So there's a nice muting exercise that you can learn. There's a video. I did the lesson a few days ago online. You can catch that if you haven't seen it. And I go through the whole lesson there, and you can see what it's like. We also have a power pattern exercise. Power pattern is down, down, up stroke pattern on the oud. And this exercise helps you go all the way up the fingerboard, all the way like on the open C string, all the way up to C here. So like you can, and you also learn different maqams, so you learn different fingerings, you know. So we do something like this. So you'll learn all these kind of exercises that go up here, all the way up the oud, and in different maqams too. So adding E flat, and also doing one like in Hijaz Kar, and then learning some different finger positions up here too. So these are good exercises that, as you can see, I need to practice a little bit myself too. And let's see, we've got another exercise that helps you practice going from the what I call the first position to the second position. So uh, different oud methods talk about hand positions a little bit differently. I differentiate by with two main positions. The first position, which all your fingers are one finger per semitone. So that's what I call first position. Second position is where your index finger starts playing the notes D, A, E on each string. So everything is shifted one semitone up, so that in this position you can reach the closed fourth note on each string. So for example, C, you can reach F with your pinky finger, and then on the G string you can reach C, closed C position with your pinky finger, and then so forth all the way down. So you can reach those positions. It's really important to learn how to change properly. And that's really what advanced oud playing is all about. And playing passages very fast is deciding when to switch. There's so many ways you could do it. And so this exercise really focuses on getting you to practice switching from one position to another so that you can play higher up on the fingerboard. And then go down the scale like that. There's different exercises that you can work on that will help you develop that kind of thing. And let's go. We learn also in part 3 Persian mode called dashti in 7/8 rhythm. So you learn this pattern 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. So this is a really nice tune that gives you the essence of what Avaz Dashti, the mode Dashti, is all about in Persian music, and it helps you learn this 7/8 rhythm. There's two ways you can divide the rhythm 7 in Persian music, and I guess I don't know how much they use it in Turkey. They use it in Turkish music too. There's some examples of 7, like Hijaz Mandira and whatnot. So you can divide it into 3 plus 2 plus 2, or 2 plus 2 plus 3. 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3, or 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. And these give different feelings. So there's different tunes that use seven a bit differently. But learning this one way is very nice Persian style of playing this piece. All right, let's go to Foundation Part 4. So Foundation Part 4 is an extension of Part 3, but starting to learn harder pieces, and gets you into starting to learn Samai. Samai are great pieces to learn because it teaches you um, melody and how to modulate. Let's go through. So we learn a piece in Nahawand and modulate, which modulates into Nawa Athar. And so this one piece teaches you how it modulates, and you can learn that and build that into your own repertoire. So you can see how that works. And then we have another tune which starts in Makam Bayati and then goes into Makam Saba with a really nice modulation. And so that'll teach you that modulation by learning that tune. Then there are three really super long lessons in part four, which go through three very essential samai. Samai Bayati al Aryan, and Simai Hijaz by Muhammad Abdo, and Samai Nahawan by Mesut Jamil. Mesut Jamil is a Turkish composer. He's also known by the name Tamburi, um, Jamil Tamburi, because he played tanbur, Turkish tambur. And great composer. Learning this piece is will really add a lot of. It will teach you modulations, how they work, from what notes they work, and it really helps to improve your technique. And so this weekend only until midnight Pacific time, we've got a promo going on for if you want to jump into this and get on board with ear training. So I've got an ear training program, which is an audio based program. It's all audio files and notation, which you can follow along with. And ear training uses your voice as your primary instrument to learn how to really gain the essence of each maqam that we practice. So there's 17 different lessons, and it's each audio starts off with um, free improvisation. So I really just completely free on the spot recorded these improvisations where small melodies are chunked up so that you can copy the melody. So, for example, it starts out like this. There's a pause where you have to sing la 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 la. You have to copy the melody, and this just keeps developing, very free form. La 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 la, and you're supposed to copy it with your voice as best to the best of your ability, without trying to sing well or anything. It's just to try to follow the contours of the melody. And so that's part of the audio of each lesson. Then we go into following the notation. So there's a sequence of, or an etude, as you could call it, and each maqam is focused on. There's a pattern that you follow, which the rhythmical pattern stays the same, so you can easily follow it. So, for example, let's say in Nahawan, it goes. So it just goes like that. And we go through it piece by piece so that you learn it. You learn it with your voice. Ear training is really important to learn to use your voice because your voice is your primary instrument. And if you can use your voice, it's got a closer connection to your body, to your brain, to your heart. You can feel the change of pitch more easily if you use your voice. So I strongly believe in using your voice to learn the right pitch of different maqams and so forth. Your voice is a very powerful tool that some musicians underutilize, I think. And so the ear training program goes through 17 maqams and goes through each one of them systematically. You can listen to this audio on the bus, hum along with it. You can listen to it in the car. Even in best place I would recommend is in the shower. Put them on while you're in the shower. and listen to them and just follow along with the program. Some of the tracks, some of the newer tracks have rhythm in the back, so they follow rhythm so that you can stay in time more easily. It's really a great learning tool. So it introduces you to 17 maqams that you can start to absorb the melodies of the maqams and get the essence of the maqam much quicker than, let's say, analyzing the maqam, by note in a scale that really has no form other than going through the note one by one. So ear training is a very important thing that I'd recommend as a beginner or someone who's advanced to practice. Um, the cool thing about this ear training program that I've included in a package that's available this weekend only is that it's inclusive to all levels. So you can be a complete bare beginner and do this program, the ear training program, or you can be an advanced oud player. So it's really cool. It'll take you from really not knowing a maqam to starting to get the essence of it. So I'm gonna just bring up some more information here for you guys about the program and the promo that we have this weekend, and then I'll do my best to answer some questions that you have. One moment. Okay. So this weekend only, we've got the Oud Foundation Program Part 1 to Part 4, plus ear training, all for $299. The standalone ear training program usually costs $139, and the entire Oud Foundation program usually costs um, $236 or so. So by getting them both together, you can save quite a bit of money. And by packaging as well, if you don't want to try the ear training program or you're not really sure, you can also buy each package, each part of the foundation program individually, but it'll work out a bit more expensive. Um, and then, of course, there's some FAQ on the page there with you if you have any questions about learning online. And I also offer a 60-day money back guarantee if you think it doesn't work for you or if you have some reservations. So uh, you have no there's no risk if you feel like trying the program, not really sure if it's for you. There's always a 60-day money back guarantee that you can always take advantage of. So yeah, this weekend only you can get foundation 1 to 4 plus ear training for $299. And like I said, your foundation program, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 systematically take you from learning the oud from the bare beginning, from learning how to tune the oud, learning how to play with a metronome, all the way to learning some samai and some more advanced material so that you can become a nice intermediate oud player. And as always, I'm always looking for feedback on these programs to make them better. And it's been a long time since we updated the Oud Foundation program. The original Oud Foundation program came out. We released it in 2013, and it had about 10 or 12 lessons. And now after 7 years of learning what people need and what helps people learn the oud, I decided to add a bunch of new lessons in it. And so we've got the original material, the original tutorials there that teach you the basic foundation program. And then we've decided to divide those up and add new lessons in there that will hopefully help you advance even more and become an even more well rounded oud method to follow. And the most important thing was adding tunes that people know, like Lamabada, Zuruni, adding repertoire from Persian traditions, from Turkish music as well. I found that that would be really important for people so that you can, in the end, if you want to go and explore Turkish music or go explore Arabic music or Persian music, you have been exposed to these types of music as well. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about that. I'd love to answer some questions. So I'm going to go through the chat now and do that. First, I'll start from the most recent um, questions here because they'll probably be more relevant to what I was just talking about. So yeah, Mark says, being honest, haven't been consistent with the foundation program. Yeah, if you have any questions, I'm always available by email. If you have any feedback for me, I'm all about you overcoming your obstacles with the Oud, and I'm also learning from people's feedback about the program, what would make it better. So if you have any suggestions for me, I'd really love to hear from you. Um, and if you have any ideas of what can help you learn better, or if there's any obstacles that you do have, any tips that I can give, hopefully I can then use that and then for in the future develop more material that will help you get over that obstacle. Let's see. All right. Okay. Yeah, so there's some discussion about Oud, learning Oud online or in person and all that kind of thing. There are some considerations when you want to learn an online program or whether you want to learn in person. There's been some people where they've been bare beginners. I've taken them on as Skype students, and they really couldn't tune their instrument at all. And that's one of the drawbacks you have with Skype lessons or learning online, is if you're not like patient enough or you don't have the skills or the background to get your instrument in tune, it's going to be it's going to be a bit challenging to get into learning. um, and so I eventually recommended that the student find somebody that they could learn from in person, as hard as that was going to be for them, because they had so many challenges to just tuning the oud, so they weren't able to really get to a point where they could actually start playing and playing at a good pace and learning well. So I didn't want them to waste their money. Um, I can't reach through the screen and tune your instrument for you. um, so that's some of the considerations that you should think about when you're learning, deciding whether to learn online. Learning online from an oud method, if you're an independent learner, you're comfortable with learning by yourself, the Oud Foundation program can really do a lot for you in that regard. Some people, it depends on their learning style too. If you're more of a person that wants to hash things out, then you may want to go into taking Skype lessons or whatnot. Sometimes people learn faster that way. But yeah, I also offer Skype lessons, which I'll have more information for you about that in coming weeks. So I recommend staying in touch by getting on the Oud for Guitarists newsletter. You can sign up for that at oudforguitarists.com. And yeah, getting lessons can really help you learn a lot. I mean, when I was learning Arabic style back, like I think this was around again 2007, 2008. I took one lesson with a Arabic with an Iraqi oud player, and I really wanted to get the taksim down. I really wanted to learn that style, and taking just one lesson with him really helped me improve and really get the Arabic style Taksim vibe that I was missing, because I was already I was already adept at improvising in a Persian style, but not in an Arabic style. So having that one lesson really helped. So if you are already an oud player and have some obstacles and challenges that you want to get through, I'm always available by on through Skype lessons if you want um, to really tackle one specific thing or a couple things. We can go and hash that out. I'm willing to learn different tunes that you might want to learn, or different styles that you might want to learn. The only thing that I don't really teach is strict kind of Turkish style. I haven't gone there yet. So, but when it comes to Arabic music or Turkey or Persian music, any obstacles that you have, willing to address them. All right, I'm gonna keep going back here. Let's see, any questions? Playing the electric guitar, I've gotten used to muting unplayed strings by resting part of my picking hand on them. Is the same considered bad from form in playing the oud? Yeah, and somebody responded to that question. So yeah, resting the wrist on the oud like this on the strings. We never do that. Um, it's always hanging out there like this, and so there's always the free form that you can have while playing. We never mute like that. And so somebody answered there, the oud is played with a rest stroke and you want sympathetic vibrations to happen. You don't want to rest the palm on the strings. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the oud sounds the way it is because of its resonance. That's really one of the biggest differences about playing the oud and playing Western instruments is that you want to have that resonance happen. You want to tune by ear, ideally. You don't want to tune into to equal temperament, um, and that's because of the resonance that you get. And yeah, so a good answer. All right, so yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be here for the next little while. If you have any questions, let's see. So the course you said is for all levels, is that right? So there's different levels. So you can start from bare beginner. Level 2 will teach you how to play microtones, and you'll learn some more tunes that way. You'll learn makam bayati, and you'll learn the quarter tone associated with that most often. And then part 3, it's supposed to be a systematic thing. So ideally, you start from level 1 and progress through to level 4. But there are some people who have maybe started playing the oud a little bit. They don't need to go back and learn how to tune the oud or learn how to, stroke up and down. They know those things. So sometimes I recommend they start from foundation part 2 or foundation part 3. And yeah, when you accompany a singer, is there a call and response relationship, or do you mainly work to enhance the singer? Yeah, that's a good question. I know what you're talking about. Aristopaz coming from flamenco music. Um, so there's different styles. In Persian music, it's really a call and response thing, and you're kind of highlighting the notes that the singer is playing or singer is singing. Um, so that's where the style comes from. Often it's call and response and support. So it's a bit different from the way that Western music and flamenco guitarists accompany a singer. Um, I wonder if working with ear training helps you anticipate what a singer might do. Definitely. Learning the maqam will help you anticipate what the singer is going to do. Once you get the vibe of the maqam, you kind of know where the resolution is going to happen or what notes are going to pause on. You're going to get that feeling, that vibe, because that's built into the lessons, with pausing on certain notes. Ear training is all about using your ear and yes, anticipating. So you do pick up some of that. Another question: do you have a learning suggestion for those who play mostly by ear and have a limited ability to read music? Yeah, that's a good question. Well, fortunately, in the Oud Foundation program, being able to slow down the video helps. So our videos, you can actually slow them down a little bit while the pitch stays the same. I believe the pitch stays the same in that when you slow it down, and so you can pick out what I'm doing visually a bit easier as well as the audio. That's always a tricky thing. When it comes to learning by ear, use your voice. That's my suggestion for those of you who learn by ear. Practice using the voice. That's the biggest tool. When I discovered that is when I was younger, and when I discovered that like a melody that I had heard was in my head and I was able to sing it, I realized that I could quickly learn it on whatever instrument I was playing. So if it's in your head, if it's in your voice, you can more easily bring it out on the oud. That's when I realized that connection. That really helped me learn tunes faster. Because often I would be told to, okay, let's learn this tune. Okay, there's no music for it. You got to learn it by ear. And back in those times, I didn't even have something to slow down the music. Like I didn't have Transcribe, which is a program you can download for your computer to slow down the music. I didn't have Amazing Slow Downer, which is an app I use all the time. Um, I didn't have those. So listening to it over and over and then humming along with it at the same time and being able to sing it back, sing a melody back is going to help you learn and play it on the oud. Because you use your ear all the time when it comes to learning where the finger positions are on the oud. There's a strong connection there. You're not going to be learning where the finger positions are completely physically. You have to use your ear as well as kind of figuring out, okay, what the distance is from here and whatnot. So everything's being activated when you're learning. So having all those tools available for you, video, seeing it visually, hearing it, and being able to sing it and trying to use your voice as a place to try to figure out what note you're trying to play, all those tools can help you. Question: do you listen to Western jazz for improv inspiration? Not really. Back when I was in high school, I used to listen to jazz music quite a lot because I was in concert band playing trombone and playing some in jazz band a little bit too. But not really for improvisation. Um, yeah, for inspiration, I usually just pick up the oud and just let my imagination wander. That's the ultimate goal. Sometimes things sound good, sometimes things don't sound good. So you try to sit there and try to work out what sounds good, what flows. Try to keep doing that, doing more of that, and after a while, after years of playing, you get a sense of what sounds good, what doesn't sound good. So really, I use that as the guide. What sounds good here? What doesn't sound good? What flows here? What doesn't flow? And trying to do more of what flows and what sounds good. But yeah, I don't really listen to Western jazz for improv inspiration. But a lot of players who play jazz music, who play blues, especially blues guitar players, they pick up Makam music much quicker than other people because blues is modal based and there's a pattern right to that music. So often those are the people who really get Makam a lot easier because they already know kind of how to improvise on that 12 bar blues kind of thing, and they know where the melody is going, and Makam is the same thing. There's a progression, there's certain levels and degrees in the notes that you use that have a progression, and so there is that too. Another question: do you recommend a tuner that's good for the oud? Tuner that I use, uh, I use any digital tuner. I use G strings on my Android phone. That's what I use to tune. Any tuner that can do different tunings might be helpful. I haven't experimented so much, but if you can find a digital app, a digital tuner that will tune in just intonation, for example, that will be more in line with the perfect fourths that you need to tune to for the oud. That's something that I haven't really explored, so I don't really have a good answer for that at this time. But just intonation is more in line with tuning your oud by ear. A trick for keeping the oud in tune, like using graphite shavings in the peg holes. Yeah, that's another long subject. But yeah, I would if you get to changing your oud strings, even using some graphite with pencil, just draw on the pegs. That will help these turn more smoothly. Um, Also, tuning your oud daily will help keep it in tune. Playing the oud more will keep it in tune more. Um, you gotta work. You gotta play your oud every day to keep it in tune, and keep doing this little by little. It's a pain in the butt. I know. Tuning the oud is really hard. Your fingers get sore, especially if you don't have a well-made oud. For example, this oud I have here, it's a beginner entry level oud that I'm showing right now. The oud pegs are tougher to use. That's just so like my fingers really hurt after tuning it. That's just something you have to kind of contend with. Um, but once you get better at it, once you play for many years, you realize how much tension, how much tightness, how much you should push it in, how much you should let it be loose, and that'll help it stay in more in tune. Is it better to simply use a metronome or to use a beatbox box program? Um, Definitely, metronome's useful. To be honest, I've never used a metronome growing up. I just put on a recording, learned the tune by ear, and play along with the recording. That's how I would practice. That would be my metronome. The recording would be my metronome. Yeah, use a beatbox program like Tuck Tuxim, Taqs.im. They've got an app for Apple users, iPhone users, which you can loop drum effects there. I highly recommend trying that out. Um, let's see, and yeah, that's what I would recommend doing. Start with a metronome, and then if that's what you can have available. Um, Play along with recordings, play along with the oud videos, the videos that I have on the foundation program. We play the whole tune from beginning to end so that you can play along with it and you can follow the notes as well. And so those are ways that I would practice moving forward. And it's nice if you want to practice improvising on a beat. The Arabic rhythms in a program like Tux.im, they provide, that's really useful to practice playing in a rhythm. So yeah, that's what I leave you with. Thank you for joining me on this. I hope I answered any of your questions. I hope I inspired you to learn the oud a bit more, to study more in depth. If you have any questions, email me at support@oudforguitarist.com. I'll put that here in the text. Support@oudforguitarists.com. Email me if you have any questions. Happy to answer any emails as best as I can, and if something was left unanswered. So yeah, thank you for joining me, and good luck. See you next time.